Alright, what is an already presenter here, back with another Honkai Star Roll video, or more of a Hoyoverse related video. I know I usually don't do these kind of videos, but since this can potentially affect Star Roll specifically, and I'm a Star Roll creator, I do actually want to go ahead and talk about this because it is a pretty big deal that can result in some changes, and mainly because it can result in some changes that I'll obviously be talking about throughout the video. I thought I might as well, go ahead and make a video on it. But yeah, I just want to get the beginning out the way, all this info, I'm just going to be reading it off what's been going on, multiple sources. You can easily search it up yourself, and you can probably get a source that I'm already reading off of. I just have the gameplay in the back so you guys have something to watch while I do talk about this. But yeah, before I get into the video, drop a like, drop a sub, hit the bell icon for future videos like this and all that good stuff. Let's get into it. So if you guys are unaware, pretty much mainly related to Genshin, but still it's going under Cognosphere or Hoyoverse. Pretty much they are being sued for a $20 million fine, which is insane, for pretty much violating United States children's privacy laws and also deceiving children over the cost of in-game translation, the odds of obtaining characters and such. As you guys know in the banners, it's kind of like hard. There's all this wonky stuff. Like they have the base rates. Like we know what the base rates are for pulling. It says it on the banner, but we know all the extra stuff. Like we have soft pities, which gives you higher rates, and it doesn't really explicitly say that, oh yeah, like after 75 we have higher chances to get the characters, and then at 90 they do say it at 90 you're guaranteed. They state the 50-50 in pretty much, but there's a lot of hidden stuff. We know it's pretty cringe and how we have to do all that stuff. We don't have a pity counter. We don't know what our pity is. We have to count ourselves, all that kind of stuff. And so pretty much that has violated the laws according to what has been happening, and is mainly going under the United States Federal Trade Commission, which is the whole lawsuit, and going against Hoyoverse in this case. But yeah, because of all that stuff, Hoyoverse is pretty much forced to being settled with a $20 million fine. And so some stuff they're gonna have to deal with is this stuff that is listed over here. This will be one of the sites I will link in the description because I am directly reading off this. But pretty much now they have to deal with these following points. Prohibited from allowing children under 16 to purchase loot boxes in their video games without parents' affirmative express consent. Prohibited from selling loot boxes using virtual currency without providing an option for consumers to purchase them directly with real money. Prohibited from misrepresenting loot box odds, prices, and features. Required to disclose loot box odds and exchange rates for multi-tiered virtual currency. Required to delete any personal information previously collected from children under 13 unless they obtain parental consent to retain data, and so on. So pretty much they're being required to have very, very strict consent from their parents to actually purchase. Since I'm sure you guys have heard stories of people maybe that are younger, or they just have access to their parents, like, payment information on their account, going over, spending thousands behind the parents' back, parents find out, they call the bank. There's a bunch of stories that's happened in the past, some of which that range up to tens of thousands of dollars, which is insane to me. My whole view on that, I don't want to get too into it because it's more of a drama related thing, because I know it's like a whole discourse going on and I don't really like giving my opinion on that kind of stuff. I know Hoyoverse doesn't really tell you or lock you behind doing that, but there are warnings in game. I know it's the whole like, oh, who actually reads like the small text that says, oh, please spend responsibly and such. But yeah, my whole view on it is that these kind of people that just have it, maybe if they're like a lower kid, they shouldn't have access to their parents' cards like that. It shouldn't just straight up be linked, able to use without a password, and then they can just completely make purchases without the parents' notice. I don't think that's a thing that parents should do. As a kid when I was growing up, I'm on the younger side, so I still didn't have access to that. Like my parents' information wasn't linked to my cards and my account, since I've been playing gachas at a very young age. But obviously I didn't have my parents' info linked to my accounts because that'd be awful. I would never spend it behind their back, and I honestly thought that was a pretty normal thing. I didn't really know how many people actually just had their accounts just linked to their kids' like games and such, and so how many cases that happened, and that's kind of why this whole thing's happening. And now there's this whole settlement going around for the $20 million fine. It's kind of insane how big of a deal it's actually become, and it's just honestly just very shocking to someone like me, since as I mentioned, I'm not that old. I'm on the younger side, so people around my age that have done this growing up, since Genshin, when Genshin came out, I was also underage, but obviously I didn't end up doing any of that stuff. It's kind of insane to think about that people around my age did that kind of stuff, and now this is finally coming back to bite Hoyoverse, and now it's a thing, even though it really isn't their fault, since I like to say it's more of a parent's fault for linking their accounts and payment stuff to their actual kids' accounts, having it on their device and having the kid have full access to that. I don't think that should ever be a thing. But once again, I don't want to talk about it too much because it's gonna get onto that stuff. I don't want to give my opinions on everything because it could get messy, people disagree. That's not what I'm here for. Pretty much with all of this, I definitely do think that Star Roll themselves, because this is like Hoyoverse getting sued for it, it's not strictly Genshin Impact. While that might be the main culprit of it. I still think this is going to apply to stuff like Genshin. It's going to apply to Starro. And so you guys might be thinking, what kind of changes can we expect to see? So obviously, right off the way, we don't actually know what kind of changes we could see. It's more up to speculation. I'm sure there's a bunch of videos just like mine talking about potential changes. But some stuff I do want to say that I potentially expect to see something if stuff does change thanks to this, which I'm pretty sure it's going to be forced to change because of how big these things are. And even though it's a $20 million lawsuit, while that might not seem to a lot for when it's Hoyo, because Hoyo makes a bunch of money, that doesn't mean they're not going to be forced to make some changes, because then it can have some further implications and further problems until they finally make changes. And so that's why I do think there actually will be changes. So what's some changes that I do think that might happening? It's mainly going to be related to the gacha side of things. I do not think the rates are going to change, but I do think it's going to be a lot more transparent, which I think is a good thing. I think it should be a lot more transparent on how rates work. I think they're going to be a lot more apparent with how the rates are, and they're going to like slap on like, oh, here is what the base rate is. And I think they might actually end up explaining more of the hidden rates, so something like soft pity, which again isn't explicitly said in the actual pity system. They don't tell you, oh, after 65 and above, you are having a higher chance to pull the light gun before you hit the hard pity at 80. Or even on the character where it's like, oh, you hit 75, now you have soft pity up until 89, and then if you don't get it by 89, which for the most part you will because you know rates are increased, and then you hit 90 and boom, you get the character at hard pity if you didn't get it within that. They don't actually list that soft pity part. They just tell you, hey, here's the base rate. If you get a 5-star, it's a 50-50 between the rate up or a standard character, and if you go up to a certain amount of pulls, it's gonna be hard pity. So for character it's 90, and I'm pretty sure for the Lycon they list it as 80. But you pretty much have to go to like the banner details, that you have to go all the way there. They don't actually tell you, it's not on the actual banner page. When you look at the banner page, you just see the new character, the text, the 4 stars, the summon button, your currency, boom. So some stuff I definitely do see changing is them very much being transparent on what the base rate is. I think they might finally put the base rate on the banner. And what I do think they might see is something like, hey, this is how many pulls you have left until you're gonna get the actual 5-star. So let's say you have 0 pity, it's gonna be like 90 pulls until 5-star character. And there might be a thing where it's like, oh, 10 pulls, 6 pulls until your 4-star character, because we're guaranteed a 4-star every 10 pulls. There's probably gonna be a pity counter for that. I feel like they're probably gonna add an actual pity counter, which is gonna be good, which is gonna be in the form of like, hey, this is how many summons you've done. They probably will also end up having some text somewhere that's probably going to be like, hey, after 75 pulls or 65 on the light gun, your rates get increased to this, which again I think is a good thing, because there's a lot of people to this day, I know a lot of us know about soft pity and stuff, but there's a lot of people that don't actually know what soft pity is. It's a thing in Genshin, it's a thing in Starro, so on. And a lot of people don't actually know what that is because they don't say it. So how are we supposed to know unless we watch content creators? Which, let's be fair, a lot of people do watch content creators, but a lot of people don't at the same time. Not everyone is gonna know what soft pity is, and if they don't really tell us, then we're not gonna know. And another great example is a system like the capturing radiance in Genshin. They give you an idea how it works, but they never actually told us what the direct rate up increase is and how it works. The way we kind of have an idea is mainly the CN community went absolutely insane and did a bunch of data collecting with stuff like Paimon.mo and such and others, and just what other people summoned on and when it was triggered, and then that's how we gained the general idea on how it worked. They don't explicitly tell us how it's gonna work, when it's guaranteed to proc. There's so much hidden rates and stuff that we don't know. That is definitely the reason why this is probably happening, and is definitely going to have some changes. And then when it comes to actual purchases, and like it says, parents under the age of 16 will now need the big consent from their parents. That has to be very affirmative. There's going to be a lot more strict laws with how people that are under 16 are going to have to purchase it, because you know they're now going to be forced to, because it's a big deal. And when it listed stuff like buying virtual currency, which is what you do, you spend real money to get stuff like Genesis crystals or the Honoric shards, whatever the hell it's called in Starro. You spend real money, you get the virtual currency, use that virtual currency to turn it into the actual currency, and then use that to summon, or you know, just use it directly. You don't actually buy a summon by using real money. You don't spend like, oh, $20 into the banner to do a summon. That might also change a bit, and even if it does, it's probably going to be the same rate. Like the $100-ish pack gives you like 5 multis. Maybe it's going to be something like that. Okay, you can purchase 5 direct multis if you spend this $100. I feel like that's probably going to be the only change, is the amount of it's going to go down. Probably not. I don't think the rates are going to go like higher either. I just think it's going to be a lot more explicit. What kind of recognition is going to be needed for kids that are under 16, I have no idea, but I definitely think this is going to make Hoyoverse be forced to be a lot more transparent with the rates. And then when it comes to buying stuff directly, don't actually know how that's going to work, but it's definitely going to be something that's going to be forced to, as it's being enforced. And what I mainly think is it's going to be a lot more transparent. So there's going to be a lot more stuff like, hey, here's the base rate, here's how many pulls you have till a 5-star character, character, they'll be talking about soft pity in the actual character banner details. There'll be a pity counter for your 4-star, and especially in a game like Genshin, and if we ever get something similar to capturing radiance, I feel like they'll finally be transparent on how that actually works. Definitely think it's going to be a game that affects more than Genshin. I definitely think it's going to affect Star Rail too, because you know it's under the same company. They don't want to have a repeat of this lawsuit, so it's probably going to apply to the games that do not yet have it. But yeah, that's the video that's talking about the lawsuit, that's talking about what I do think is going to be happening. What's my opinion on it so far at a base. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think it's going to be a big change? What changes do you guys think is going to be happening to it? What's your opinion? All that kind of good stuff. And yeah, peace out.